And welcome to a new edition, Reigns on the Cardinals podcast. Rob Reigns here, along with Mike Reigns, STLSportsPage.com, as we talk about the Cardinals' trip to Cincinnati. One really good day on Wednesday when the Cardinals sweep a doubleheader, and another really bad day on Thursday when they lose 9-1. Mike, how are you?
I'm good. I think the key word that we were looking for throughout this season was consistency, and we are yet to find that.
Well, they doubled their win total on the road in about 9 hours on Wednesday when they hit 6 home runs and win that doubleheader. But unfortunately, the rain delay got them on Thursday. They lose 9-1. You never know exactly what would have happened in that ballgame had they not had the rain delay. Matthew Liberatore, of course, was on the mound, and in my mind, arguably been the best Cardinals starting pitcher this season. But unfortunately, he had to come out of the game after 3 innings because of that long rain delay, and the bullpen did not come through.
They did not. And no, Liberatore has been very good this year, and I think he's one of the highlights of the season so far. If it's me, the best starting pitcher we've had so far this season is Steven Matz, but they don't let him pitch. So that's neither here nor there discussion. But
well, it is something we're going to discuss. Of course, I want to remind everybody that all of our broadcasts here, podcasts here on STL Sports Page, as well as all of our content free with no paywalls, including our daily game reports. You can find a lot of information about the details about post-game reports, which come out every day. Our thanks to Drury Hotels, Archwell Travel, AAA Travel, Missouri, all of our sponsors for keeping all of our content here available to you without any paywalls. All right, so we're a month into the season, and taking away the road record, which is now 4-13 aside. What's your highlight? What's the you think has been the best? Okay, go ahead.
I have a question. I have 2 questions for you before we jump into that.
Okay.
If you're looking at this season compared to last season, is this a better ball club than last season on May 1st, a month into the season?
I would say yes.
Analyzing them at the same spot.
Yes, I would say yes.
Okay, so if you recall back, do you recall how many wins you said this team is going to end up with at the end of the year?
I think my prediction when we started out was 76, correct?
Okay, so you're also telling me this club is better this year than they were last year. Last year, through May 1st, we were 14-17.
I'll say about the same record. I don't remember.
This year, we're 14-18. Are you ready for the difference? Last year, at this point in time, we'd scored 109 runs. We'd given up 139 for a -30 differential. This year, we've scored 147 runs through May 1st. One more game, but
right.
And you've given up 145, so +2. So you're on the positive right side of the run differential. So to me, the first key takeaway is the offense has been drastically improved from last year to this year. They're hitting much better now. What is it? 5th overall in the National League at 256 right now. So as a team, they're coming through. To me, the other big takeaway is the pitching has really let them down because you've scored, roughly 40 more runs through the same point in time as last year, this year, and you have the same number of wins with 40 more runs scored. That's hard to do.
And I haven't done the math to find this out, but maybe you've got your computer wizardry can do this while we're talking. But how many of those losses have gone to the bullpen? I mean, I think, obviously Liberatore got the loss on Thursday because he given up the 2-run homer before he came out of the ballgame. They were losing 2-1. The game they lost 9-1. But I think a lot of those losses has been on the bullpen, and also because here until the last little stretch, you've not let the starting pitchers go very far.
Well, and there's a couple guys you can take out of this, right? So throw Gordon Graceffo out of the way out of this because he hasn't really pitched a lot up here. And you could probably throw Rodri Munoz out of this too because he hasn't done a lot either. But Ryan Fernandez with an 11.4 ERA. Jojo Romero with a 6.1. John King with a 4.8. Chris Roycroft, 7.9. Overall for a team ERA out of the bullpen of 4.4. So I think what we thought was one of the strengths of this team was the bullpen has really been a big weakness so far. I mean, Ryan Helsley looks completely lost out there right now.
He never gets to pitch. He's gone 5 days again without pitching.
And I'm not.
And I know that happens to a closer. I realize that when you only want him to pitch in a safe situation and you don't have safe situations, he's not going to pitch. But it's the downside of having that strategy and using that as your approach.
I think that's the challenge is he's got to figure out when to get him in the game. It doesn't have to be a save situation. Ali has said before that he may, Helsley may pitch in games that are close but not save situations to get him work. Well, that's fine, but when is that going to happen? And that's where I go back to this keyword of consistency, because over the last 2 weeks, there haven't been a lot of close games. They're one-sided one way or the other. So there hasn't really been that many opportunities to get him in. And so that's the job of the manager, to figure out when you're going to pitch those guys.
The other guy I will point out that I think has done a great job in the bullpen, who shouldn't be kind of lumped into all the failures that they've had, is Kyle Leahy. I think he's done a terrific job out there, and every time they've used him, he seems like he gets out of the situation just.
And I was going to say, Phil Maton with a 2.6, Matz with a 1.8, and Leahy with a 1.4 ERA. So really, those three you can kind of take out of the equation, because they've been Matz, Maton, and Leahy have been your best three pitchers this year, and regardless of starters or relievers. But I mean, those three you can take out, but everybody else is Helsley's got a 3.6. Everybody else is above 5.
Right. No, I don't disagree with you. I think if you had to single out one area of the ball club where the biggest improvement could come, it would have to be the bullpen, because I think by and large you've gotten decent performances out of the starting pitcher. Michaelis the last couple of games has been much better. I say Libator has been very consistent through the season. Gray is been okay. I mean, he's I don't know that he's necessarily been pitching like you would expect a number one pitcher to pitch, but he's certainly done okay. He's get the ball again on Friday night, but to me, the biggest question about the starting pitching, I know we're going to jumping around here a little bit, but when we get into this kind of where we are in the first month, to me, the biggest question is this whole 5-man versus 6-man rotation. I don't see, and I know you got off days coming up, one a week, the next, but I just don't see anything wrong with having an off day. We're giving those guys an extra day of rest. If you've got 6 guys who can be quality starting pitchers, use them. I don't see what the problem is.
And if you heard on the broadcast the other day, they were asking Miles Michaelis about that, and he said, I enjoy having the extra day. It gave me more rest, gives me more time. So if your pitchers want that, it certainly can't hurt, because nobody's up here having a stellar game right now. Right. So there's got to be, something that can fix that. To me, the other concern throughout the starting pitching is there's 2 guys that are giving up a lot of home runs, Andre Palante and Sonny Gray. That worries me. Obviously, Gray has been your best pitcher, and most of his are solo home runs, but right now he's given up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. So that's not great.
And those games at home, they're supposed to be at a pitcher's ballpark, by and large, historically has been a good place for Cardinal pitchers to pitch.
Sonny's a 1.3 and Palante's a 1.7. 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. That's not going to get the job done.
Before we do get into kind of the breakdown and analyze the positives and negatives of the first month of the season, I do want to mention 2 kind of items of news that have happened here today. One is that the Cardinals announced that they've traded Ryan Lotos, the relief pitcher out of WashU. Ryan was a WashU grad that kind of signed with the Cardinals as a minor league free agent. A great story, as he developed an app that the Cardinals used actually in an analytics department. He worked for them part-time while he was developing his own ability as a pitcher. He made it to the big leagues in 2024. So he goes to the Dodgers for cash considerations, as he had been designated for assignment back on Monday when the Cardinals added Jose Barrero to the roster and optioned out Thomas Saggese. So we wish Ryan all the luck in the world. He was a great, very, very cooperative with us in the media, and hopefully we'll give him a chance. I'm not sure. I haven't seen actually the complete transaction yet. If he's going on the Dodgers 40-man roster, but I'm not sure if he's going directly to LA and getting promoted to the big leagues, or if he's going to go to their AAA ball club. But either way, you hope it's a good opportunity for him and another chance to get back in the big leagues, whether it's now or later. And the second thing that's happened today is Ivan Herrera, as everybody knew, was going to start a rehab assignment down AAA Memphis. He did. He served as the designated hitter today for the Redbirds. He hit a 3-run homer in his final at bat. He had struck out 2 of his first 3 at bats, but still very positive development that he had hit a home run. I think up until yesterday, he'd been tied for the team lead in home runs. He hadn't played for 3 weeks.
If you're looking for a positive, Lars Nootbaar finally has the lead in home runs on the team, not the guy who hasn't played in 3 weeks.
Yeah. And 3 of those home runs, of course, came in one game. So it's been an interesting first month to the season. There's no questions about that.
The thing about the home run is, to me, Brant Brown is you can really clearly see his approach this year. Last year, I think Turner Ward, Jeff Albert, whatever prospect you want to say, was really pushing for home runs, launch angle, launch angle, launch angle. That's all they cared about. This year, you can tell that Brant's approach is different with each player, and it's very much take the pitches that are coming toward you. If the pitch is outside, take it to the opposite field. Do what you have to do to just get on base, and that's been apparent. They've scored a lot of runs, and I think what's exciting when you watch this team is you don't feel like they're out at any point in time.
Right. So one of the other things is, what do you think about Mason Wynn moving into the number 2 spot in the batting order?
To me, the two guys that need to be at the top of the order are Victor Scott and Mason Wynn, right? Because the challenge is they have speed and they can run. You just need them to get on base. Well, all of a sudden you move Mason up to the 2 hole and all of a sudden he starts hitting much better. I think the problem is when they're, 8 and 9, there's not really, I guess you can say Newbar's behind them to protect them, but he's still behind them at the back of the lineup. So I don't understand the difference, but some guys just hit better in certain sections, and it seems to be working for Mason.
That's a good spot to segue into our discussion of the positives and negatives for the first month of the season. I have to think, and this is not necessarily in any particular order, but I have to think that Victor Scott, the second's performance has been one of the positives. 10 for 10 in stolen bases, just looks like a whole lot more comfortable in the outfield, making very good plays defensively. I think a night and day, one of the most improved players from a year ago to this year.
And I know you and I are both Victor Scott believers, and we've been saying this for a long time, but I don't know that anyone watching this game right now could tell me still today that Siani's a better defender than he is. It's just not possible, in my opinion. And I think I understand what Ollie was saying about how, well, there's guys that make contributions that you don't see in the box score, and I understand what he's trying to say, but the ceiling of Victor Scott that we're starting to see is much higher than that of Michael Siani's, and I'm very happy to see the way that Victor's playing.
The other guy I think that has been a positive all season long has been Brendan Donovan. One hit away from tying the Cardinal, 2 hits away from tying the Cardinal record for most hits before the end of April. You talk about consistency. I think he's a guy that you can really much count on day in and day out to, no matter whether he's playing second base or left field or even the games he played at shortstop. So I think you're very happy with how he's played and been a very positive for the offense.
The two other, I'm going to give you 2 other positives here. One, I think the positive play of Lars Nootbaar. I think having him healthy, having him there is very good. And he's taken a lot of walks, which is key. We just need base runners, and that's so important. And I think that's a huge key to the success of this team and that's why he's been at the leadoff spot, right? Because he's getting on base, and that's what's important.
And there's the other one.
The other one that I'm going to say is Pages, because he's really had to step up and probably play a little bit more than alternating with Herrera. And he's come through really well, I think. Defensively, he's probably the better defensive catcher here, right? Because he can throw guys out a little bit more. But his offense, yes, it's a little bit behind Herrera's. We can't say it isn't, but I think he's been a positive to help bridge this gap, right? I think last year when Wilson went down, it was a much bigger gap between that, and it didn't work out as well. Whereas Herrera going down, I don't think we lost that much right now.
Certainly didn't lose any defensively. I mean, but Pages is certainly a better defensive catcher, so that's been a big positive too. So,
and we could even say, I understand that the offense of Walker's not there yet, and Gorman, they're not going yet, but defensively, Jordan Walker looks like a whole lot better, a whole different outfielder than a year ago.
Yeah, if you could separate the defensive from the offensive part of Walker's game, I think the defensive part has definitely been a positive for the first month of the season. It looks like, kind of like Victor, looks like a whole different player out there as far as his confidence, his reads, the jumps he's getting, the aggressiveness to go out and try to get balls that he would have just laid up and let fall in front of him a year ago. So that's been a very positive thing. And I think we already mentioned too, I don't want to forget though, to include him in this discussion, that the 3 guys on the pitching staff that you would single out as probably very positives would be Matz, Libator, and Kyle Leahy.
Absolutely.
Very happy with how they pitched.
One more note on Walker is there was a play just the other day that he was coming in, and I thought the same thing. He was going to stop and let it bounce in front of him, but no, he just kept running. He caught it and then continued to throw the ball to first and double him up. And I mean,
right.
That would not have happened last year. No shot.
Looked like a third baseman making that throw with a little quick hop without even kind of.
It was great, and that's what you need out there, right? You need somebody that can do that, and I don't know that he would have done that a year ago.
And the good thing now, we're going to get to the negatives, which is going to be Walker's offense as part of this. But I think one of the things about this is that he's been able to separate that defense from the offense. Even when he's not been hitting, when he had that long, slump on the road trip, he still didn't let it affect his defensive play. And for a young player still trying to get his feet wet in the big leagues, I think that's a positive.
And it happens to veterans too. Take a look at Nolan Arenado at the beginning of the year last year. His defense was awful because his offense wasn't going, and neither one of them were working. He couldn't separate the two. He'd made more errors last year than he's ever been and cost him a Gold Glove.
So Walker now, after Thursday's game, is at 206 with, let me get the exact amount here, 33 strikeouts and 102 at bats. Two home
it's
runs.
Not great.
Yeah. How long is the runway?
Yeah, that becomes the problem, right? I mean, here's the question. You said it was a reset. Well, now it's a transition or whatever we want to call it now. So do you let the kids play and let them keep going? We saw this with the Brewers, and they let them keep playing, and it worked out well for them. Yeah. But is it going to work out the same for Jordan Walker?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question. I really do. And I think you can put Nolan Gorman into that same category. He's obviously not had as many at-bats because he missed the 10 days with the hamstring injury, but he, again, is 19 strikeouts and 54 at-bats and is only hitting 185.
Yeah, and he's striking out a lot, which is the bigger problem, right? Where we at here? 29% of the time is his strikeout percentage. That's not going to cut it.
No, and you just hope to see signs. I know I did a talk on Wednesday at the Merowitz Center out by the Jewish Community Center, and one of the conversations that we had was about that runway and about giving these guys a chance to play. And I did say that I think sometimes in the Cardinals' defense of giving these guys all this leeway even when the results are not what you would like for them to be, they sometimes have different measuring sticks for how a guy is performing rather than just what his batting average is, how many home runs he's hit, whatever, which are the bubblegum card statistics. The metrics, the advanced metrics that they look at is and obviously Walker is hitting the ball hard. I mean, he has a lot of hard hit balls, and they talk about the process. How they are doing with the process of everything. So I do think there's more to both of those guys' performance than just what the actual results that we're seeing that you look in the box score and see. But still, those performances have not been, I think, to what this point the Cardinals had hoped they would be.
No, it doesn't. And when you look at the advanced metrics, which are the numbers that you sometimes don't necessarily care about, as we talk about
some of them.
Old school, new school mentality. Well, the number that jumps out to me is what they call ISO, ISO. So what that measures your raw power. So basically, when you get a hit, how often is it a double, triple, home run, etc. Like when you're actually hitting the ball, though. So it has to reflect into your average. Jordan Walker. Now, this isn't counting your hard hit percentage, so I'm not going to get into that number right now because that's just how hard you actually barrel the ball or how many barrels you get. That's a whole different discussion. But just looking at your ISO, which is how the raw power when you actually get a hit, Jordan Walker's is a 0.80. Now, for comparison, Lars Nootbaar's a 0.175. So what that's telling you is that Walker's obviously struggling a lot, but he's not putting the ball where it needs to be to get base hits.
Right. And Gorman, I think, is the same way. He gets a hit here or there, gets a double, but there's just the consistency has just not been there yet.
And what that also is telling you is that when Walker's getting hits right now, most of them are singles. But he's getting on base. Now Gorman's is a 151 ISO, which means when Gorman's getting hits, they're doubles or home runs.
Right. The other negative statistic I'll point out here is the Cardinals have no home runs, and I think the last count is I haven't updated this. I thought is still accurate. 2 RBIs in 32 games now out of the designated hitter spot. Now I know that's not one player. They've been bouncing a lot of different guys through that spot, but that's not getting the job done either.
It's not, and I'm glad that Ollie's continuing to work the lineup though, and not necessarily go with the same lineup every day because you got to find the right combination. And right now, I don't think we're there yet. I think we're closer, but we're not there yet. And you talk about runway. Well, one of the negatives was the beginning of the season, how bad Wilson Contreras started off, and we just kept him in that 2-hole. Well, now he's hitting a lot better. Would that have started sooner had Ollie moved him out of the 2-hole to take the pressure off of him?
What do you think about the pitching as far as the starting? We saw a great game, I think, out of Graceffo. McGreevy's pitching well. Are we getting closer to making some decisions, giving some of these younger guys a chance to pitch, you think, too?
Well, I mean, your best, again, like I said earlier, the best starting pitcher we've had so far this year is Steven Matz. You've only let him start 9 innings, but he's trying. But in those 9 innings, he hasn't walked a single batter. So the guy who's really not been up to par that I worry about the most is Eric Fetty, because right now he's at a 12% walk rate. And so guys are just constantly getting on base with him, and that's not going to get the job done. So how long do you let someone like that, who we're not necessarily paying a ton of money to? We've already dumped Tommy Pham, so we've proven that we may have not made the smartest trade. So how long do we hold on or give him a runway to let him go before somebody like Graceffo or McGreevy gets a shot?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. It's going to be
or the other question that I wonder is they're okay putting Matz in and out of the bullpen and starter. Why can't Eric Fetty try that role to see if 1 or 2 innings at a time it could, reset something? Because they say sometimes, you look at Libby when he went to the bullpen last year, it actually helped him kind of, really kind of learn to attack certain pitches certain ways and just know that, hey, I got to give everything I got because I only have 1 inning here. Maybe that would help Eric Fetty. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think he has learned that now he can attack hitters as a starting pitcher the same way he did as a relief pitcher and still be, just as effective. The walk on Thursday was only his 3rd walk in 34 innings this year, so that's the very low walk rate for him, and that's only the 2nd home run that he's given up this season as well. So you have to be very happy with how he had pitched. So I do think there's going to be some questions about how they line these starters up though going forward now for the next several games.
In 31 innings, 1.7% walk rate out of Libby. 63% left on base rate, which is pretty good, but he's not getting a lot of guys on base. So I think that's what's helpful for him, because of 0.29 home runs per 9 innings.
That's Mike Raines. This is Rob Raines. We're visiting here on the Raines on the Cardinals podcast at STLSportsPage.com. Cardinals will be back at Busch Stadium on Friday night with the Mets in town, Sonny Gray on the mound. Of course, you can get all of our coverage. We go or sign up for our weekly newsletter, get all the podcasts, everything out here by downloading the app, by getting all the signed up for the newsletter, getting your podcasts on Spotify or Amazon, any Amazon Music, YouTube, any of the choices where you normally get all your stuff. So hopefully you'll check out all of our content, not just this podcast. Of course, the other thing that's going to be coming up on Friday night is Cardinals will be announcing their class of 2025 for the induction ceremony into the team's Hall of Fame, which will be a big deal coming up later on in August or September. I'm not sure the exact date for that yet, but look forward to seeing who the fans have selected and voted into to this year's class of the Hall of Fame.
It will be interesting. Yeah, I have one more point that I wanted to make on Libby here before we move on too far. But
go ahead.
It's along the lines of the advanced metrics as I try to enhance this podcast from.
I appreciate your efforts.
I'm trying. So the latest stat that I want to talk about is the XFIP. Okay, your XFIP is a pitcher's independent fielding or basically like your independent ERA minus the defense behind you. So how well you should be pitching based on normalizing it and not the defense behind you. Says that Libby should have a 2.75 ERA right now, which means his ERA of 3.1, he's actually gotten a little bit unlucky, and he should have a little bit better ERA on his side going forward. So I think no matter how you look at it, Libby's pitched very well this year.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that. It'll be interesting to see if, since he only went 3 innings, 42 pitches on Thursday, they tried to bring him back a little bit sooner than his normal turn in the rotation. So they've got some decisions to make about that. So Friday night, downtown St. Louis is going to be a very busy time. You've got the Cardinals and the Mets taking place at Busch Stadium. You've got Game 6 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, the first round between the Blues and the Winnipeg Jets. Oh, yeah, and by the way, you've also got the Battlehawks playing in the Dome, all in about a 20-block radius of downtown St. Louis, all playing starting times within about 15 minutes of each other. What happened to the soccer team? What happened to City FC? Where are they?
We're St. Louis City. Too bad they're not playing too. Yeah. So, no, it'll be a fun
St. Louis is a small market. Just come and hang out downtown on Friday night.
That's what we want, though, right? I mean, there's a lot going on. It's all good sports. They're all relevant. No matter what game you go to, you're going to have fun. There's a lot of great things happening. So, yeah, hopefully the Blues can get it done here and continue to move. And hopefully the Cardinals can pull out a good series against the Mets.
Yeah, 6-game homestand, 3 against the Mets, followed by 3 against the Pittsburgh Pirates before they go back on the road. So, Mike, thanks for the visit. Always enjoy it. We'll talk to everybody again soon here on the Raines on the Cardinals podcast on STLSportsPage.com. Thanks for watching, everybody.